Hey guys, my name is Brittany. I'm a second-year Yale PA student, and I'm co-author of the Applicants Manual of Physician Assistant Programs. And I'm currently at the hospital on a shift, but it's a little bit slow because we just discharged a bunch of our patients, so I had a few minutes to pop on here. So I was just asked about healthcare experience during a year off and how to look for those jobs and try to secure one without having to get extra certification. The unfortunate truth is that healthcare experience is hard to come by, especially paid jobs that don't require you to spend time getting extra certification. I would recommend talking with your advisors and your professors to see if they have any affiliations. When I was in undergrad, we had an orthopedic office that actually accepted a lot of students who wanted to go into the healthcare profession from my college. They allowed me to sort of train as a medical assistant without getting a certification, so I basically shadowed with the medical assistants there and learned about their job responsibilities until I was comfortable enough to do some of those things on my own. I wouldn't have known about this place if it wasn't for a referral from the advising office at my school, so I would definitely check with them. There are a lot of alumni that love taking students either for shadowing opportunities or even potential clinical roles, so it's definitely worth asking. And like I said, sometimes schools build relationships with nearby hospitals and doctor's office, and they can sort of help facilitate getting your foot in the door. My only advice other than that is to apply. You never know what kind of skill sets people are looking for and what you can learn on the job. You'd be surprised how many people would be willing to train you if you put yourself out there, show that you're smart, hardworking, determined, and that you really want to learn. I would definitely recommend doing some research in undergrad. I think having research on your resume makes you look like a well-rounded and more versatile candidate. That being said, don't do it just to do it. I made the mistake of doing some lab genetics sort of bench research, and it was terribly boring. I would say do something more clinically focused. So find someone in like a psych department. Maybe you have a physiology professor that's active and does research. Find someone who's going to teach you how to think about things from a clinical perspective. And don't feel like you have to write 100 papers for it to mean something. You can certainly make a poster for a symposium or even just get your name on one small paper. It's definitely better than no research at all. So sorry guys, I just got 3 admissions and got super busy. I will be back later and I'll answer all of your questions. I got a question about secondary applications. So secondary application should be your main platform for talking about yourself, what you're good at, what makes you unique, and what makes you stand out as a candidate. Sometimes they'll ask you political questions or questions about the medical field just to see that you're updated and well-informed. In these cases, they want to see that you're attuned to the current evidence and that you're able to read through literature, formulate an opinion, and can convey your thoughts in a comprehensive, intelligent, and well thought out way. If a program asks you specifically what you can contribute to this school, do some research. Spend some time looking through that school's website and see if they have any clubs or organizations or extracurriculars that you might be willing and excited about getting involved in. Schools like to know that you're well-rounded, and trust me, you'll need some breaks once you're in PA school. So if there's something you're really passionate about, talk about it. You might be passionate about women's reproductive rights, or about the LGBTQ community, or about health justice, or providing services to low-income families, or educating the future PA students of America. Whatever that might be, talk about it, investigate it, see if that program offers anything like it, and if not, you could always spearhead a project on campus once you're at PA school. Ooh, great question. Someone asked about whether didactic year prepares you for clinical year and if you actually use the information that you learned. The answer is abso-freaking-lutely. The purpose of didactic year is to teach you medicine, and the purpose of clinical year is for you to apply that medicine and practice your skills. Didactic teaches you about the pathology of disease and about what signs and symptoms to look out for when you're evaluating a patient. What I will say is that the diagnostic workup is not always as clear-cut. So you hear about all of these lab tests, these imaging techniques, and when you read about them, they sound completely intuitive and you can sort of picture how they might go. But until you see these things, it's really hard to get a good sense of how they work. As an example, a stress test is used to work up cardiac ischemia. And it makes sense, right? So you put a patient on a treadmill and you make them work in order to, quote, stress the heart. But it's difficult to remember all the specific details until you see it performed in person. Then you'll never forget. So that's the kind of thing that you get on clinical rotation that is advantageous and certainly more hands-on than what you learn from reading during didactic year. As far as which classes you can take in undergrad that best prepare you for PA school, I think anatomy and physiology are definitely at the top of the list. And those are prerequisites at just about every program, so they should be on all of your schedules. But I would pay attention in anatomy and physiology. That's where you're going to get a good foundational base for a lot of what you'll learn in PA school. Another good one is microbiology. I would also recommend like a cell biology or a biochemistry, and another good one is neuroscience. For those of you who get nervous on interviews, just know that you are not alone. Of course, some degree of nervousness is totally warranted. You say that if you're not worried, then you don't care enough. So don't feel bad about being nervous during your interview. Some schools, when they offer you an interview, will give you a few dates to choose from. I highly recommend that if you get that opportunity, pick a school that's lower on your list and interview at that school earlier in the process. This will give you the opportunity to practice the interview process almost as a dry run in a school that you care less about than your top choices. I found that extremely helpful because I was super nervous for my first 2 interviews, but by the time I got to my 3rd, 4th, and 5th interviews, I was so much more comfortable with the whole process, so I was a lot less nervous each time I went into a new interview. For those of you that just have a high level of anxiety no matter what, just remember to breathe. You don't want to pass out during your interview. Take a deep breath, close your eyes, and just accept what's going to come as soon as you walk into that door. I know it's scary, but the world is not going to end if it doesn't go well. So just remember that, and I think it'll make you feel a lot more relaxed. I think I mentioned this earlier, but research is definitely a very valuable thing to have on your application when applying to PA school, but it certainly isn't a necessity. It's true that research is looked at more heavily when applying to medical school, whereas for PA school, getting that clinical experience is much more important. When I was an undergrad and looking for research opportunities, I went on my school's website and looked through the science department and the psychology department. So I reviewed the research interests of a lot of the faculty members and tried to find topics that, I had a common interest in, and I emailed those people. If you have a professor that does research outside academia, that's even better because they're an easy contact and they already know you as a student. So I would definitely recommend starting there. If you've already graduated and you still want to get some research under your belt, think about the local colleges in your town. Most researchers are happy to have eager students aboard. It's starting to get dark. Someone asked about clinical research counting as patient care hours. I don't think it does, even if you're consenting patient. I believe that more appropriately goes under other healthcare experience. We currently don't have the average acceptance rates per school in our book. That's because these rates don't differ dramatically among schools. The average acceptance rate at any given program is about 3 to 6% of all applicants. And the national average is 35 to 40%, meaning that 35 to 40% of applicants get accepted to at least one program each application cycle. Hey guys, so it's late. I have so many more questions to answer, but I'm going to be getting to bed because I get to be up super early for another shift. Good morning, guys. I'm back. Elena would like to know if you get a C+ in anatomy, should you retake it? Since anatomy is a prerequisite for just about every PA program in the country, it wouldn't be a bad idea to retake it and try to get your grade a bit stronger. Most programs require no grade below a B, B-, C+ for each prerequisite course. It really depends what program you're interested in applying to. You can find all that information about specific prerequisites and grades in my book. When applying for PA school, think of it kind of like applying to undergrad. It's definitely more competitive, but you want to aim for some schools where you know you meet all their requirements, and think of those as kind of like your safety schools. Then you want to apply to some that are a bit more competitive. I would recommend applying to 10 to 15 programs, but this number is going to differ for each person. A GPA around 3.5 is not bad at all and will make you competitive at a lot of programs. What's more important are the grades that you got in your science courses. If you did well in those, it's going to show the PA programs that you're ready to take on the intense workload. if your GPA is being brought down by, for example, a C in economics, that's less significant than getting a C- in physiology. So some of you guys got direct messages back to your snaps. I'm sorry I wasn't able to send a video back for every question. I've got to run, unfortunately. But please follow me on my other accounts, and I'm happy to do more takeovers. You see this humidity? I started with nice hair, I swear. Once again, all my love to Andrea. She's the best. She's so great for doing this for everybody. Hey guys, my name is Brittany. I'm a second year Yale PA student. If you don't remember me, I was on Friday and a little bit yesterday morning. I'm getting ready to head into a night shift in the emergency department, but I just wanted to pop on for a few minutes and answer any additional questions that you guys have. I know I left a little bit abruptly yesterday, and fortunately my partner Mark came on after to answer a bunch of your questions, but he said there were a few questions he might not have gotten to. So I just wanted to make myself available in case you guys have anything else on your mind. Fire away. For those of you who missed it, I am co-author of this book, The Applicants Manual Physician Assistant Programs, which lists all the PA programs in the country. So in terms of rotations, so far I've had internal medicine, which was absolutely great. That was my first rotation, and it was a great one to start off with. It was very challenging for a first rotation because you basically learn all of medicine, but I feel like it really prepped me very well for the rotations that I had afterwards. Then I did neurology, which was an elective rotation for me. I did 2 weeks in the neuro ICU and 2 weeks in outpatient clinic. I did psychiatry, which was also a unique experience. Not every program has a psychiatry rotation, but I really enjoyed this one. Yale has consistently performed among the best in the country in terms of psychiatry on the PANTS, so I think there's a lot of value to doing a psychiatry rotation. I've also done geriatrics, I've done primary care, I've done obstetrics and gynecology, and I've done pediatrics. I was just asked about whether Yale PA students get as much attention on rotations as the med students at Yale, and the answer to that question is yes, most of the time. Yale fortunately has a lot of clinical sites, so depending on which rotation you're on, there's not always overlap with the med students, especially when it comes to the outpatient rotations, like, primary care clinics and stuff like that. You're usually on your own. As long as you're aggressive and show that you're eager to learn, you can get just as good of an experience and as much access to procedures and things like that as the med students. So I was just asked about a degree in nutrition and working as a diet technician at a hospital and whether that would count as patient care experience. The answer is yes, that should definitely count towards healthcare experience hours. You're going to be working with patients, counseling them, educating them, making diet plans for them, and all of that is relevant to what you'll be doing as a PA. So I was just asked about volunteering at a hospital and whether that counts towards patient care hours. And the answer to that is probably not. A lot of times, volunteers don't really get a lot of direct contact with patients and a lot of responsibility, but it's certainly a step in the right direction and a way to get your foot in the door. I just got asked about what upper level science courses most prepare someone for a didactic year of PA school. I would say that things like neuroscience and biochemistry are particularly helpful for didactic year. This is my home. I'm about to head into my shift, guys. I don't know how much I'll be able to snap, but I will do my best to at least text you back responses if I can't do videos. So I just got a good question about exams at the end of rotations to test our learning. At Yale, we have an end of rotation exam on our callback day, which falls on the last Friday of the rotation block, and we have an exam for each of our core rotations. I believe this is the standard at most programs. If not an exam at the end of each rotation, they usually do a sort of a summative exam at the end of a few rotations. I was just asked how much longer I have in PA school, and I finish in December, so I'm almost done. I applied to Yale, Johnson & Wales, University of New England, Pace, Stony Brook, Hofstra, Columbia. I had interviews at Yale, Pace, Johnson & Wales, and University of New England, and Northeastern. I was offered interviews also at New York Institute of Technology and Hofstra, but I declined after getting into Yale. I loved everything about Yale as soon as I got here. The facilities, the proximity of the hospital to where classes would be, and Yale has some pretty world-renowned faculty, and those are the people that taught us our lectures. Doesn't get much better than that. I was just asked about X-ray technician counting as direct patient care hours. And I would imagine that most programs would accept that kind of experience as direct patient care hours, but to be safe, it'd be a good idea to email the programs you're interested in and just make sure that they will count it, especially if you're not already an X-ray technician, but you're considering getting certified in it. You want to make sure that it will count and that you don't waste a certification and a lot of time. Another great question about why NPs are able to practice independently but PAs are not. For one, as you know, the PA profession is a lot newer than the nursing profession. The nursing union is also extremely huge, so they have a lot of support. Secondly, the AAPA and other state organizations have not been bold enough yet to really go for independent practice for PAs. So unfortunately at this point, that is just how our role and profession is defined, but that could change in coming years. So I didn't just take a gap year before going to PA school. I actually took 4 years off and worked for 4 years before applying to PA school. I think I was able to stand out in part because of my time off and the experiences that I had. I think I came off as a more mature applicant, and I was able to talk very confidently about my different jobs, what I learned, the PA profession, why I wanted to be a PA, all of those things. I also got a lot of compliments on my personal statement, so I guess maybe that helped me stand out as well. The infamous question, why PA over MD? That's a good one for me because I actually did consider going to medical school when I was an undergrad. However, before jumping onto that bandwagon, I decided I wanted to take at least a year off, get some real-world experience, and then maybe study for the MCAT. Well, before you know it, 1 year turns into 2, and then 2 turn into 3, and then 3 into 4, and all of a sudden you're left questioning, am I too old to start medical school? In all seriousness, my life just kind of changed. I realized that I wanted a little bit more potential luxury and freedom in my schedule. I wanted to eventually have a family, and I wanted to start making money as soon as possible so I could start paying off my loans. I really wanted to go into medicine was so that I could take care of patients, not so that I could have a particular title at the end of my name or make so much money. So I realized that I would be able to do that as a PA, and in the long run I'd potentially have a better work-life balance, which is really important for me. So a lot of people have been asking me if I needed to retake any prerequisites since I took 4 years off before going to PA school. And I did not have to take any prerequisites over again. Most schools will accept prerequisites taken within the last 5 years, and actually a lot of schools even accept within the last 10 years. So you should be all set. So I've been getting a lot of questions about my personal statement and what I wrote it on, and any tips and advice that I have when writing the personal statement. I had come across this great quote that talked about how as clinicians we're healers, and in order to heal we need to take off the white coat. And so I talked a lot about the significance of the white coat. I talked about some of my healthcare experiences and how they related to this theme of healing and having to sometimes humble ourselves and realize that at the core we're all human beings with similar goals and desires. Healing's not always about providing symptomatic relief in the moment or finding a cure for someone's ailment. Oftentimes our role is much more complex than that. We're expected to heal not only on a physical level, but also an emotional level, psychological level, a spiritual level, and sometimes all of those at once. Even when we have to give bad news or we're taking care of a patient with a terminal illness, there are still ways that we can heal as providers. And that may be with something as simple as a touch, a smile, a hug, even silence. So I just discussed some of my clinical experiences in the context of this theme of healing and talked about what that meant for me. For those of you who are now writing your personal statements or will be starting to write them in the near future, my advice to you is find something unique to center your essay around, whether it's a concept or a theme or an experience. You're often asked to discuss some of your clinical experiences in the personal statement, and it's easy to get carried away with boasting all of your many accomplishments. But I think more importantly, the personal statement is a platform for you to share a bit of both your personality and your passion for the profession. It can be very difficult to put together a cohesive personal statement when you're talking about all these different experiences that are otherwise not linked in any way. So find something that can bring them all together. Did you learn a very important lesson in one experience that you were able to utilize in another setting, or did something happen to you that made you grow and change as a person? Whatever you do, just find something that is so uniquely you that your passion and your desire bleeds through. Okay, maybe that was a little dramatic, but you get what I'm saying. As I said before, every other applicant sitting next to you is going to be equally competitive from an academic standpoint. The only real place in your application to make yourself stand out is the personal statement. And don't forget, you can always reach out to me on social media. My Instagram and Snapchat are the same as below. Thank you again to Andrea for allowing me to do this and for bringing together such a wonderful community of pre-PAs and other healthcare professionals.